releasing the list with Tharoor's name as the star campaigner. Tharoor has maintained that he was never contacted. Despite Supreme Court's relief, Kamal Hassan's Thug Life will not be released in Karnataka as distributors say it's not feasible. Now, days after the Air India crash near the Ahmedabad airport, the Ministry of Civil Aviation has now released the draft rules aimed at removing potential hazards to aircraft safety around airports. The move strengthens enforcement against buildings, trees and structures breaching height limits in aerodrome zones. According to the draft, authorities will now have more power to act quickly. Any structure found violating the permitted height will be served a notice, and owners must respond within 60 days with detailed plans. The failure to comply could lead to demolition or forced height reduction. Meanwhile, Air India has announced the reduction of its international services operated by wide-body aircraft by 15% over the next few weeks as part of a broader effort to stabilize operations and prioritize safety in the wake of the recent crash. We have some breaking inputs coming in. All right, we're getting in a statement from the Air India CEO. In fact, Campbell Wilson goes on to say that the plane was well maintained with its last major check in June 2023 and the next scheduled for December of 2025. Now, remember, that's contradicting the reports that were doing the rounds that the plane was up for a check in the days ahead. It's right that the engine was overhauled in March 2025 and the left engine was inspected in April 2025. Both the aircraft and engines were regularly monitored, showing no issues before the flight. Arising from this tragedy and as directed by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation or DGCA on 14th of June 2025, we have been conducting thorough safety inspections on our 33 Boeing 787 aircraft. So far, inspections have been completed on 26 and these have been cleared for service. The remaining aircraft are currently in planned maintenance and will have these additional checks done before being released into service. Following the review, the DGCA has confirmed that a Boeing 787 fleet and maintenance processes will fully meet the safety standards. A very important and significant statement coming in from the Air India CEO. Let's quickly go across to Yesha Kotak, who will shed more light. Yesha, so the latest statement that's coming from the Air India CEO is also contradicting several reports that were doing the rounds.
Absolutely. In fact, now that this very statement has come in from Campbell Wilson, he has in fact shed some light, or for that matter gone ahead to take the stance about Air India, clearly mentioning some conspiracy theories that were going around. First, of course, the theory about both the pilots. Here he's gone ahead to mention that Captain Sumit Sabharwal was a highly experienced pilot with over 10,000 hours of flying experience. First Officer Clive Kunder had 3,400 hours of flying experience. On the other hand, now when you go off to speak, he's also gone ahead to clarify the stance about the aircraft and the maintenance that was held. Like you've already mentioned that the last year check-in for that very flight was done in June 2023, and the next one was scheduled for December 2025. Clearly here is, like you've mentioned, the right engine was overhauled in March 2025, left in April 2025. He's gone ahead to clarify that there was no fault with the engine in whatsoever. He's also gone further to mention that that Air India is cooperating with the investigating agencies in whatever way possible, and which is where safety inspections are also being done on 33 Boeing aircraft. 26 have already been cleared for service. Of course, he's gone ahead to say that this is leading to several cancellations and delays in flights. In fact, amidst all of these disasters that are going around, Wilson Campbell has gone ahead to mention that they've decided to reduce the international flights by 15% from June 2025 until mid-July, so that all of these checks can be put into place. Yes.
Most importantly, Mr. Wilson has also referred to what the DGCA has gone on to indicate, Yesha, because he's saying that the DGCA has confirmed that the Boeing 787 fleet and its maintenance processes are meeting safety standards. What does that go on to talk about brand Boeing, which has now come under the scanner ever since the ill-fated flight of AI-171?
So here clearly when the crash in fact took place, there were questions that were being raised on Boeing and also the technical aspects of the Air India flight. Clearly here, speaking about this, he's clearly mentioned that there's absolutely that this was a part of the whole confidence building measure, and they've decided to continue to enhance pre-flight safety checks on Boeing 787 fleet and also Boeing 777 aircraft for time being. Clearly, this like we've also spoken about, while the DGCA we had while there were several questions being raised on whether it was the fault with the Boeing aircraft and that's what led to the crash. This statement by Campbell Wilson has in fact mellowed down or actually turned down all the theories or the theories that were put into place. And clearly here, he's also, on this point, he's also gone further to mention how it's important to, in fact, right now, trust the investigation process that is on, and which is where, this whole statement also goes ahead to mention how Air India right now is cooperating with DGC and other investigating agencies when it comes to different aspects of the investigation are concerned.
Stay with me. More information coming in, Yesha, because Mr. Campbell's statement also has a very important statement. The entire statement, of course, as we highlighted to you, is sharing that there was no technical difficulty in terms of the inspections. The safety inspections were also conducted as per the timeline, but more importantly, he's also gone on to in fact offer an apology by saying that we are truly sorry for the inconvenience. We know these disruptions have been frustrating, so Air India being very mindful of the flight delays, the cancellation of the flights that have been taking place. I want to bring in Yesha, but is there also any indication or any explanation coming in from the Air India CEO with regards to what is leading to these disruptions and the inconvenience that the flyers have had to face?
So clearly here, when we speak of this statement that has come in, Mr. Wilson has gone further to, in fact, state the reasons why it's causing inconvenience to passengers. One, of course, he's mentioning that enhanced safety checks and extra caution, apart from the airspace closures in Iran and Middle East and night flying restrictions at airports, is one of the factors why several flights are being delayed, or in fact, for that matter, cancelled. Apart from that, he's also gone on to mention how there has been small technical issues with several aircraft and higher than usual number of cancellations in the wake of the Ahmedabad tragedy in the long-haul network is the reason why the disruptions are taking place, and for which it's clearly said that they apologize for it. But apart from that, considering the fact that some of these flights are also undergoing testing, and that is one of the reasons for which there are flight delays and cancellations are taking place. Clearly, so far, when you speak of it, international wide-body flights are being cut down by 15% until mid-July in the wake of this very tragedy. Yes.
Many thanks to you for bringing us all those latest inputs. Let me quickly bring in our guest joining in on Nation at 5. I'm joined in by Captain Sam Thomas, who's the President Pilot Association of India. Many thanks to you, Captain Thomas, for joining in. Captain Thomas, before I deep dive into the new aviation draft rules, I want to bring your assessment into what has just been stated by the Air India CEO. The information that he's shared in his statement is clearly going on to contradict all of those conspiracy theories that were doing the rounds for AI-171, that it was due for inspection and that it could have been a potential engine loss. What's your assessment of what the statement has been so far?
It's been a crisp statement. It was required at this time. And conspiracy theories that have been floating around should not be given credence at all because it are very, very foolish kind of people coming on media and speculating. So that is something that you should not give any credence. For the reason I'm telling you is that the DGCA and the maintenance schedules are such that it's very difficult to fudge them and it's very difficult to bypass them. They are scheduled maintenances and they have to be conducted at regular periods of time and regular intervals, basically, and a record of that maintained and submitted to DGCA as well. So to say that the airplanes were not maintained, is far from accurate. So whatever he said at the moment is crisp, concise, and that is what the people were looking for, some kind of statement from the Tatas. And also the reason exactly why these cancellations have happened. It's a variety of reasons. One is the additional inspections that have to be carried out on this airplane. And that cannot be done while it's online. It has to be taken back out of line and taken to probably a hangar or maintenance facility and then done. So that's going to pull out a lot of airplanes. Also, there is a problem with Iran and its airspace.
Yes, that's something he's also referred to.
Yes. So, and most developed countries don't allow you to fly an airplane in the night or early morning to into their countries. That has been there for quite a while. Now, when three of these aspects combine, there are going to be disruptions, and they've done a very prudent thing by pulling out 15%.
Okay. I want to bring you in on another very crucial point he's made in his statement. Sounds very basic, but he's saying that the plane that crashed on 12th of June was very well maintained. And if the Air India CEO is making that statement, what are the questions that it raises now?
Now, whether the Air India CEO says that or not, any airplane that's flying in the Indian airspace is supposed to be maintained absolutely meticulously. And that is a part of the air operator's permit that is given to every airline, that you will maintain these airplanes according to the schedules published, and the intervals would not be exceeded without any special permission. So, rather, without a special permission, you will not be able to exceed this limit. So, it doesn't need the CEO of Air India to come and tell us. That is the maintenance status in India. Yes, have there been cases of minor missing of these maintenance schedules? DGCA from time to time does an audit. Sometimes they haul up the airlines, and so it's not easy to bypass these maintenance schedules.
Right. I want to, bring you in on the recent discoveries that have also been made, which includes the black box. But stay with me, Captain Thomas, as we take our viewers through the details that are now emerging over the investigation into Air India 171 crash, as authorities are now trying to piece together what exactly went wrong. CNN News 18 has learned that the black box is being sent to the United States. Now, important to highlight that the recorder suffered severe fire damage. So, to probe it also is going to be a challenge at the moment. The data extraction in India is currently unfeasible, which is also what was leading to the reports that it may be sent to the United States. The aircraft accident has, in fact, the investigation bureaus has led to the Delhi lab, which was set up last year. This is where the investigation has been taking place so far. The aircraft accident investigation bureau's Delhi lab lacks the capability for heavily damaged recorders, because remember, it was the severe temperatures that led to the challenges, which even say is becoming a challenge in DNA sampling. The National Transportation Safety Board's advanced lab in US handles these kind of complex recoveries, especially when it comes to recording the data from the black box. The black box flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder may need sophisticated methods due to fire impact. The aircraft was a US-made Boeing 787, and aviation protocols support involving the state of design and manufacture, which is why it brings Boeing into the picture. Here's an overview of what these devices now exactly record when you talk about these black boxes. Let's first tell you about the flight data recorder of the FDR. It records the altitude speed. It also records the engine performance, and also it's found within 28 hours of crash on 13th of June. How much of the data could it have saved as far as that is concerned? It's recorded the status of in-flight characteristics as well. It was installed in the crash, and the survivable part was the tail, remember. As far as the cockpit voice recorder or the CVR is concerned, it captures the cockpit audio, the pilot conversations, and even the ambient sounds. It was recovered on 16th of June. Why is the recovery date so crucial? Because one will also have to factor in how much of the data was preserved after it battled such high temperatures. Now remember, as far as the CVR is concerned, it has recorded the flight crew's voices. The cockpit area microphone was located on the overhead instrument of the panel between the two pilots. The engine noise and stall warnings from cockpit are key for the entire investigation. The events behind the landing gear extension and even the retraction is key to the entire probe. Sounds will now determine what was exactly the system failures. Were the pilots aware of what the failure was? What was the speed at the time of the mishap? These are all questions that perhaps could be found, as far as the answers are concerned, they could be found from the discoveries that have been made. The conversations between the pilots, the ATC, the cabin crew, all have been recorded. But will they be discovered, and will the data now come out is the big question. The stalled crash survivability, and this entire part was found in the tail. Let's take these discoveries with Captain Sam Thomas, who continues to stay with us. Captain Thomas, I think the moot question still remains: how much of it has been preserved, given that the biggest challenge is the high temperatures and that entire fireball that we witnessed, and that's also become a very, very significant challenge even during DNA sampling.
Ma'am, first of all, there are a lot of inaccuracies or assumptions in the statements that have been just made. One is that this CVR or DFDR together cannot survive these kind of crashes. It'll easily survive these kind of crashes. It's designed that way. And the other assumption is that India doesn't have the expertise. So we will all send it to the United States. This is the narrative that we are objecting to. Who told you that India doesn't have the expertise? India had this expertise in the 1990s. And why would it go to the United States? Yes, I understand protocol. You call the people from NTSB, but where are our people? Why can't it be done here? You are raising a question on our expertise. We are well and truly more than qualified than the people who are coming from NTSB, or if not equal at least. So we strongly object to this black boxes being sent to the United States, because we have seen it on many occasions. That let's just keep transparency in place, and if you can send people to the south, or rather the moon mission, Mars mission, you mean to say we can't decode a DFDR? And first statement that is made, it's damaged, so it has to be taken to another country. Even if it's damaged, this can be done with a small kind of these are SSD. It's like your hard drive of your computer, and they are protected by steel.
So Captain Thomas, how do you respond to the point that aviation protocols support involving the state of design and manufacture, in this case this being Boeing, will inadvertently involve the United States and the FAA?
Correct. You involve them. You don't send it to their house.
Okay.
So what we're saying, you involve them. You invite them here. You've done that. Great. You bring Boeing because it's a Boeing airplane. And I don't know how much it is has India been involved in any of the air crashes that has happened outside India? They will invite you for sure, but they won't give you the entire, access to everything that they have. Here, what we are fearing is, first thing, they will tell you that the black boxes are damaged and it can be done only in the United States. Thereafter, what happens? We don't know what's going to come out. Look at the first investigation that happened with the 737 Maxes, and the second investigation with the Max. see what the congressional hearing said about Boeing.
Okay.
So why get into that trouble when you can do everything
Yes,
here?
I agree. You make a very critical point over here. But if you talk about the the AAIB's Delhi lab, many are talking about how it was just very recently, a year ago, set up and perhaps lacks the amenities. How do you respond to those concerns that have been raised?
Ma'am, AAIB in itself is not, having the kind of expertise or the governmental help that needs to function just like the NTSB. There's no comparison between the AAIB and the NTSB.
Okay.
But I am talking specifically, why go to the Delhi lab of AAIB? There are so many forensic labs in India. And this day and age, you're telling me that a hard disk can't be decoded in India, it is beyond comprehension for me, man.
No, but when you say that there are so many forensic labs, are they adequately equipped to handle such kind of aviation disaster equipment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not some specialized equipment. This is a hard disk. You can take care of it in any place. So certainly India has been a tech capital for a lot of the European and the American companies. So I find it really surprising that you are looking at people to decode a DFDR. I've worked with Jet Airways for 20 years, and a significant part of that in the early 2000s, and we were doing the decoding in Bangalore. So I don't know where this explanation is coming from.
All right, stay with me, Captain Thomas. Let me also take our viewers through how there's, in the past also, a similar kind of alarm being observed after every aviation disaster. There's been alarm around major airports on the safety of airport zones. Back in June of 2025, the Maharashtra government had also ordered removal of portions of buildings that were flouting the height norms. In June of 2025, the AAI found 624 obstacles around Chaudhry Charan Singh International Airport. Now, in 2025 of June itself, a British-era clock tower remained a safety concern for the Patna Airport. In September of 2021, DGCA had ordered removal of structures crossing permitted height limits. In September of 2018, Delhi Airport had identified 176 structures as felt that they were infringing height restrictions. I go back to Captain Thomas on that note. So, Captain Thomas, to bring you in on the draft aviation rules at the moment, I think the concern is not the rules not being in place. It's the enforcement of these rules that's clearly being flouted, given the timeline I've just shared with you and our viewers.
No, you're very correct on that. Now, firstly, we have a way of making rules. Right from the time Lord Macaulay in 1860 started making rules for us, the rules are made in such a way that they may not be the easiest to implement. Why are they made like that? They're made by design and not by error. So that you come to me as an implementer and ask for some kind of waiver. Now, that leaves a lot of discretion with the implementer, that are the bureaucrats who will give you an idea as to how this particular law can be flouted. So that has happened near every airport. I have seen something in the 90s with the HAL airport in Bangalore, wherein the Airport Authority of India had very clearly said that no high-rise buildings within 22 kilometers of the airport. That was removed and made 2 kilometers in a very clandestine manner. So things are sort of not above board in all of these lawmaking and law implementation. So that you have hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what it is.
So when these draft rules say that authorities will have greater power, are we saying that the authorities did not have greater power till now? And where is it that they were actually, how were these norms being allowed to be flouted?
See, the rules were there, the power was there. It is your will to implement that. And there is a lot of corruption involved in this. By omission or by commission, these rules are flouted. That is how you see high-rise buildings coming at the compound wall of the airport. The place where we flew as cadets, that's in Bangalore, that runway is rendered useless now because there's a flyover on one side and a set of apartments on the one end of the runway. So their ends are flying. So how did that come up? Didn't they know the rules at that time?
Okay.
So there is an angle of corruption there, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing your precious insights with us, Captain Tam Thomas. It was a pleasure speaking to you. With that, let's now bring you some ground reports. CNN News 18's Yesha Kotak brings you more.
The new notification that's been put in place by the Aviation Ministry, wherein buildings as well as trees which are beyond the permissible limit right now closer to the airport would have to be taken cognizance of, and some of them would also have to be demolished. Now this comes in place even as there is a funnel zone. Funnel zone, in fact, in and around the airport area speaks about the buildings which are in the space from where the flights take off and land, and which is where they are supposed to be within the permissible limit. As far as details in Mumbai are concerned, there are 6,000 buildings in the funnel zone around Mumbai. In fact, in notification has been issued by the Aviation Ministry, it's mentioned that all of these buildings will be issued a notice, and very soon they would have to also be demolished. When you speak of this, this is very close to the Mumbai airport. This is the domestic airport. Just behind me is the wall of domestic airport. You can also see the air traffic control. And as far as details from the Aviation Ministry is concerned, it is said that the maximum number of buildings around airport are in Mumbai. In fact, rightly you can see, because this is the Velepalle Santa Cruz area, one of the posh areas in Mumbai. Whereas on the other hand, where there is international airport, there is that's at Andheri, and which is where, when you speak of Andheri, what's also important to note is that around the Andheri International Airport is where there are a lot of business areas, which is where this would now be under the cap of the Aviation Ministry. But that you see, recently it was announced by the Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, who's also the Housing Minister, saying that redevelopment and TDR benefits would also be given to buildings in funnel zone.
All right, and we're slipping into a quick break here at Nation at 5. We'll be back with the latest news and updates. Stay tuned to CNN News 18.
This is The Drive.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Remember, our colleague Siddhant was just joining us. He was bringing us context around it. He was saying, okay, those are fresh visuals coming in of that incident. He was saying that this might provide impetus to the United States. Remember, the big question around this right now is whether or not the US will join in Israeli efforts right now as they attack Iran and Iran counter-attacks Israel. Remember, there have been civilian losses on both sides. The Iran-Israel conflict, as it is being called, that has stretched over almost a week now, has seen civilian losses on both sides. But these fresh visuals coming in from the Soroka Medical Center, this is towards the south of Israel. Just take a look, listen in. Remember, the big question right now is whether or not the United States will participate in the Israel-Iran conflict as it's playing out right now. We know that the US president has approved an Iran attack plan according to some sources, but that no final decision, that's what we just shared with you, has been made. He said, I may not, nobody knows what I'm going to do. These visuals coming in, though, from Israel, whether or not they'll tip the scales, that remains the question. Our colleague Siddhant joining us right now. Siddhant, over to you.
Well, that's right. So this attack took place by this ballistic missile was fired from Iran, directly struck Soroka Hospital in Beersheba, which is in southern Israel. And in fact, the video which we are putting out on our screen is of the moment an Iranian missile hits the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba, southern Israel. In fact, as we were discussing before, Toya, that this will definitely be treated as a fresh escalation by Israel, and this particular attack on the hospital being targeted is coming day after Supreme Leader Khamenei yesterday warned Israel for consequences. And after which today hospital has been targeted by Iranian missile. Now, as far as casualties, we are still awaiting official version on it. We have very little detail about how many staff members and patients were present inside the hospital. But hitting a hospital perhaps could be a turning point in this war, Toya. Let me put it this way, because so far, there have been very minimum casualties in Israel. Israeli systems have managed to intercept Iranian missiles. But this particular strike could be a turning point in this war. And perhaps the reason which Israel was looking for, maybe to go after the Iranian regime, to bring down the Iranian regime, now they will get that reason. Even to convince the world, to convince United States to bring down the Iranian regime, and to convince the world that how Iranian regime is an existential threat for them.
Iranian news media sources, though, have been claiming that Israeli strikes have taken place, damaging hospitals in Iran. So those accounts have come in from publications in the Middle East. Siddhant, I just want to understand from you. You were telling us about the United States earlier. Can you explain to us regional players? So regional players like Saudi Arabia, for example, how are they aligning as this story develops?
Well, the other regional players, Toya, are in favor of diplomacy, are talking about de-escalation, etc., etc. But given the Iranian proxy network in the region, Toya, none of these countries have been very happy with that, or rather, have been very comfortable with that proxy network. So if it's Houthis, then Houthis target Saudi Arabian refineries. Okay. So, there is always one or the other reason why, these West Asian countries have largely been against Iran and Iranian nuclear program. None of them wants Iran to become a nuclear power. That is very sure. But they also want tensions to de-escalate. They want diplomacy. But there is also a strategic silence, Toya, on the part of West Asian countries. Let's highlight that. But as I said, that this particular attack of Iran on a hospital in Israel is going to be the turning point in this war, because this gives Israel a reason to go after the Iranian regime, to bring down the Iranian regime. Perhaps Israel has been saying in an interview to CNN News18 from day one that Iran's ballistic missiles, Iran's barrage, the number of ballistic missiles they are producing, they have right now is not only a threat to Israel but whole of region and Europe. So that is exactly what they are trying to convince the world. They are trying to perhaps convince United States, and now they've got that reason where a civilian hospital, a medical center, has been hit by Iranian missiles, and which is after Ayatollah Khamenei's warning to Israel yesterday. So definitely it will change the entire war, and this Israel will definitely be using it as an opportunity to convince United States, to convince the world that look how Iran is targeting our civilians, our medical facilities.
Siddhant, can you tell our audiences, the US President Donald Trump putting out a statement in which he's essentially said that the US knew where Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, was, essentially implying that they knew where he was, they were choosing not to attack him. How did that statement go over Tehran's security forces? Did it cause a sense of fear within the establishment? Just bring us more context.
Well, as far as Iran is concerned, Toya, they are not ready to surrender. In fact, when yesterday also it was asked to President Trump that Supreme Leader says that he will not surrender, to which President Trump said that good luck to him. So in fact, Israel so far has maintained that their ultimate objective is not.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Remember, our colleague Siddhant was just joining us. He was bringing us context around it. He was saying, okay, those are fresh visuals coming in of that incident. He was saying that this might provide impetus to the United States. Remember, the big question around this right now is whether or not the US will join in Israeli efforts right now as they attack Iran and Iran counter-attacks Israel. Remember, there have been civilian losses on both sides. The Iran-Israel conflict, as it is being called, that has stretched over almost a week now, has seen civilian losses on both sides. But these fresh visuals coming in from the Soroka Medical Center, this is towards the south of Israel. Just take a look, listen in.
Welcome back. Now, in a big revelation, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, has confirmed that Khalistani extremists are now using Canadian soil as a base for anti-India activities. The annual report, which outlines threats to national security, states that individuals and networks associated with the Khalistan movement remain active in Canada. It further adds that these extremist elements support or seek to use violent means to establish an independent nation state within India's Punjab region. Remember, the findings come at a time when a possible thaw is being witnessed between India and Canada after a period of heightened diplomatic tensions over the presence and activities of pro-Khalistan groups in Canada. At the same time, let's also tell you what the major admissions are in this CSIS report, which is the Canadian Intelligence Security Agency. And remember, this is the annual report of CSIS that we are looking at. Let's also take you through the admissions that have now come forward as far as the Khalistan menace in Canada is concerned. The first biggest validation of concerns of India is that Khalistani extremists are continuing to operate in Canada. That is what the report states. It also says that Canada has been used as a base to plot and propagate against India. The third most crucial point it states is that the Khalistan elements in Canada are planning violence against India. These are the three important key takeaways of the CSIS report. Joining me with more perspective on this report is Siddhant Mishra. Siddhant, given that these admissions have now been made in a CSIS report, that is Canada's Security Intelligence Agency, is that also an indication of how Prime Minister Mark Carney is now willing to address these Indian concerns?
Well, yes, Akanksha, we should, take this particular reflection of his policy or the change in Canada government's policy, because Mark Carney is very clear as far as his focus is concerned. He is going to focus more on the economy of Canada. In fact, for the same purpose, he invited India because he understood that, he cannot put economy back on track without engaging with India. Having said that, as far as key groups are concerned, perhaps they were putting pressure on him not to invite Prime Minister Modi, etc., etc. But he not once, entertained them. In fact, statements by him has largely been very positive for India. Now, this is a very small paragraph, Akanksha, in the CSIS report. But since it is happening for the first time, perhaps it's, as I said, that it's a reflection of the changed policy of the Canadian government. But there is more which needs to be done.
So when you say that there's more that needs to be done, where does that now leave India's extradition request? Is this an optimistic sort of information that's now come to the forefront, and does that also indicate that Canada will now get cracking on all of those pending extradition requests, especially with regards to the Khalistanis?
Well, that is exactly what the sources are telling this to Manoj Gupta, that what is required right now is that Canada wanted a structure to share security and law enforcement related matters. Now that structure has been formed, and both sides will be exchanging information, etc., related to transnational repression, terrorism, extremist activities. But there are concerns as far as Indian government is concerned. There has been LRs which are still pending with the Canadian law enforcement agencies. Dossiers have been given to them by the Indian government. In fact, just a short while back, you were reading those names from the dossier which is with the Canadian government, but there has been no action taken by the Canadian government. Many people from here in India get involved in criminal activities and then they run away to Canada by taking a donkey route, and then they operate freely from the Canadian soil, despite Indian government flagging such cases, with the government of Canada. No action again. So there are a lot of issues, which Indian government has as far as law enforcement and security matter is concerned. So
Right.
if they are saying that we have concern as far as Niger killing is there, Bishnoi gang, etc., all these things are being said by the lawmakers there.
Right.
So Indian side also has its own concern, and those concerns should also be addressed.
Stay with me, Siddhant. We are getting in some breaking inputs. This is with regards to the Pakistani Field Marshal visiting the United States. This is a CNN News 18 exclusive. Top government sources are saying that the meeting between Asim Munir with US President Donald Trump bypassed the elected government. This shows that Pakistan's elected government do not hold authority in matters of foreign policy and national security. Government sources are saying that Asim Munir's talks with Donald Trump extended beyond security issues, and they included issues related to trade, economic development, and even cryptocurrency, undermining the elected government in the country. Let's quickly go across to Siddhant, who will shed more light in inputs shared by Security Affairs Editor Mr. Manoj Gupta. Siddhant, shed more light, and what does this now mean for the overall politics of Pakistan? Is this meeting also an indication that this is a blanket army rule that one is looking at, and the ultimate authority is that of now the Field Marshal, self-proclaimed Field Marshal rather, Asim Munir?
Well, there is no doubt that Asim Munir calls the shot in Pakistan. In fact, Kangsha, Asim Munir from a very long time was trying to get President Trump's and Secretary Rubio's attention. In fact, for the first time when Pakistan handed over ISIS-K terrorists to America at that point in time also, as per the America's Defense Department, Pentagon, that Asim Munir told it to Americans that please convey this to President Trump and Secretary Rubio. So he was seeking America's attention, because all he knows one thing, that if he wants to take a center stage in Pakistan's politics, for that he needs blessings of America, and he has been doing that. He has been trying to get the attention of White House, of Secretary Rubio from a very, very long time. Now he has managed to successfully achieve that goal. He was invited by President Trump, but there are many reasons to it. Obviously, the one is, ongoing war in Iran, rare earth minerals. Then he is, giving full credit to President Trump for the ceasefire. Then President Trump's family companies involved in crypto business with the government of Pakistan, etc., etc. But Manoj Gupta, what Manoj Gupta is reporting, that this is undermining the current government of Pakistan, because no other country sends its army chief to meet the President of United States. As per the protocol, it's the Prime Minister, heads of states and heads of governments are invited. So, it itself tells that, there is no democracy, there is no rule of law in Pakistan. It's the army which runs the show, and this is the reason that even America has understood that if they want to get anything done through Pakistan or in Pakistan, then they need army for it. So instead of inviting Sharif, who is just a puppet of Pakistani army, let's just speak directly to the Pakistani army.
Absolutely, just an indication of the puppet government in Pakistan over there. Many thanks to you, Siddhant, for sharing all those extensive inputs. And with that, we're slipping into a quick break. Stay tuned to Nation at 5.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Remember, our colleague Siddhant was just joining us. He was bringing us context around it. He was saying Okay, those are fresh visuals coming in of that incident. He was saying that this might provide impetus to the United States. Remember, the big question around this right now is whether or not the US will join in Israeli efforts right now as they attack Iran and Iran counter-attacks Israel. Remember, there have been civilian losses on both sides. The Iran-Israel conflict, as it is being called, that has stretched over almost a week now, has seen civilian losses on both sides. But these fresh visuals coming in from the Soroka Medical Center, this is towards the south of Israel. Just take a look, listen in. Remember, the big question right now is whether or not the United States will participate in the Israel-Iran conflict as it's playing out right now. We know that the US president has approved an Iran attack plan according to some sources, but that no final decision, that's what we just shared with you, has been made. He said, I may not, nobody knows what I'm going to do. These visuals coming in, though, from Israel, whether or not they'll tip the scales, that remains the question. Our colleague Siddhant joining us right now. Siddhant, over to you.
Well, that's right. So this attack took place by this ballistic missile was fired from Iran, directly struck Soroka Hospital in Beersheba, which is in southern Israel. And in fact, the video which we are putting out on our screen is of the moment an Iranian missile hits the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba, southern Israel. In fact, as we were discussing before, Toya, that this will definitely be treated as a fresh escalation by Israel, and this particular attack on the hospital being targeted is coming day after Supreme Leader Khamenei yesterday warned Israel for consequences.
Okay.
And after which today hospital has been targeted by Iranian missile. Now, as far as casualties, we are still awaiting official version on it. We have very little detail about how many staff members and patients were present inside the hospital. But hitting a hospital perhaps could be a turning point in this war, Toya. Let me put it this way, because so far, there have been very minimum casualties in Israel. Israeli systems have managed to intercept Iranian missiles. But this particular strike could be a turning point in this war. And perhaps the reason which Israel was looking for, maybe to go after the Iranian regime, to bring down the Iranian regime, now they will get that reason. Even to convince the world, to convince United States to bring down the Iranian regime, and to convince the world that how Iranian regime is an existential threat for them.
Iranian news media sources, though, have been claiming that Israeli strikes have taken place damaging hospitals in Iran. So those accounts have come in from publications in the Middle East. Siddhant, I just want to understand from you. You were telling us about the United States earlier. Can you explain to us regional players? So regional players like Saudi Arabia, for example, how are they aligning as this story develops?
Well, the other regional players, Toya, are in favor of diplomacy, are talking about de-escalation, etc., etc. But given the Iranian proxy network in the region, Toya, none of these countries have been very happy with that, or rather, have been very comfortable with that proxy network. So if it's Houthis, then Houthis target Saudi Arabian refineries. Okay. So, there is always one or the other reason why, these West Asian countries have largely been against Iran and Iranian nuclear program. None of them wants Iran to become a nuclear power. That is very sure. But they also want tensions to de-escalate. They want diplomacy. But there is also a strategic silence, Toya, on the part of West Asian countries. Let's highlight that. But as I said, that this particular attack of Iran on a hospital in Israel is going to be the turning point in this war, because this gives Israel a reason to go after the Iranian regime, to bring down the Iranian regime. Perhaps Israel has been saying in an interview to CNN News 18 from day one that Iran's ballistic missiles, Iran's barrage, the number of ballistic missiles they have right now is not only a threat to Israel but whole of region and Europe. So that is exactly what they are trying to convince the world. They are trying to perhaps convince United States. And now they've got that reason where a civilian hospital, a medical center, has been hit by Iranian missiles, and which is after Ayatollah Khamenei's warning to Israel yesterday. So definitely it will change the entire war, and this Israel will definitely be using it as an opportunity to convince United States, to convince the world that look how Iran is targeting our civilians, our medical facilities.
Siddhant, can you tell our audiences, the US President Donald Trump putting out a statement in which he's essentially said that the US knew where Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, was, essentially implying that they knew where he was, they were choosing not to attack him. How did that statement go over Tehran's security forces? Did it cause a sense of fear within the establishment? Just bring us more context.
Well, as far as Iran is concerned, Toya, they are not ready to surrender. In fact, when yesterday also it was asked to President Trump that Supreme Leader says that he will not surrender, to which President Trump said that good luck to him. So in fact, Israel so far has maintained that their ultimate objective is not.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Remember, our colleague Siddhant was just joining us. He was bringing us context around it. He was saying, okay, those are fresh visuals coming in of that incident. He was saying that this might provide impetus to the United States. Remember, the big question around this right now is whether or not the US will join in Israeli efforts right now as they attack Iran and Iran counter-attacks Israel. Remember, there have been civilian losses on both sides. The Iran-Israel conflict, as it is being called, that has stretched over almost a week now, has seen civilian losses on both sides, but these fresh visuals...
Welcome back. Getting in breaking inputs. In fact, we are learning that there's been a security review meeting as far as the Ministry of Civil Aviation is concerned, presided over by the Union Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu, who chaired this review meeting on safety, passenger facilitation and even airline performance. Air India CMD also met the Union Civil Aviation Minister. Joining me with more details on this breaking story is Payal Mehta. Payal, share with us who all were in attendance at this meeting.
Well, the officials of the Ministry of Civil Aviation were present there. Obviously, along with the airlines concerned with SpiceJet, Indigo, Akasa, or even, Air India CMD was part of this meeting, basically to make sure that minimum discomfort is caused to passengers, especially in the case of Air India, where multiple people, including, politicians, have also pointed out. Supriya Sule also recently pointed out that there was a grave delay as far as the flight was concerned, but no information was really shared with them, so that needs to be taken care of. Passenger safety and passenger interest cannot be compromised at all. And also, with the fact that there is a lot of news that has been doing the rounds that possibly, the black box, which was, of course, recovered from the flight that crashed in Ahmedabad, that there were certain quarters of the media which are reporting that the black box has been sent to the US. That's not really correct. Our channel, CNN Network 18 was the first channel to actually break and tell our viewers that the information is not correct and government is still to take a call, Akanksha, whether or not we want to send the black box, for investigation further to the US.
With regards to operational continuity or even transparent communication, as you rightly highlighted, lot of reports doing the rounds which are factually incorrect. Was that also included in the discussions?
And most certainly, there is a lot of speculation that has been doing around, a lot of, chatterbox which is being going around around all the time. Therefore, the ministry has also urged all the stakeholders to refrain from any speculation on any sensitive matters and allow the investigation process to proceed with seriousness and professionalism that actually is required. At the same time, passenger communication has to be bang on, because, there cannot be a situation when you have, of course, a flight which is getting delayed by a few hours, but the passengers have not been informed. So they have to inform passenger in every form of communication that is possible, whether it's through phone calls, through emails, or even messages. That is something which has been very, very clearly, articulated in as many words by Ram Mohan Naidu. Remember, has been at the center of this entire process. In fact, trying to see what best efforts can be put in by the government of India as far as passenger welfare is concerned. Eventually, passengers are the biggest stakeholders as far as any airline or the industry is concerned.
Many thanks to you, Payal, for bringing us all those latest inputs on that news story. With that, it'll be a now shifting focus over to air defense. In fact, getting in breaking inputs, we are learning that the air defense is all going to move fast now. This after a nod from the Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh, who is all set to involve private players. The Aeronautical Development Agency, or the ADA, has invited expressions of interest, or EOI, from Indian companies to develop and then produce the 5th generation fighter jet, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, or the AMCA. The deadline has been fixed for the project, and we are expecting this to be anything before 8 years. This is the big breaking input we are bringing to you. Raksha Mantri now involving private players. And the Aeronautical Development Agency, the ADA, has invited expressions of interest with regards to that. Let's quickly go across to Aman. Aman, if you could share more information and for the benefit of our viewers, expand on what the government means through these expressions of interest.
Akanksha, on May the 27th, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had approved this big decision that the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft will be produced in India with the help of private companies as well. So both public sector companies and private sector companies could now get involved in the process to make the AMCA. And today, very quickly after Rajnath Singh approved the decision, today the Aeronautical Development Agency has invited expressions of interest from Indian companies. They can apply as a single company, as a joint company, or as a consortium to bid for this project, and the deadline for the entire conceptualization and the development of the ACMA has been set at 8 years by the government. So this is a very important figure, because this particular AMCA aircraft has been a big dream of India, and this now for the first time we have a deadline being fixed by the government. In the next 8 years you will have the complete development, the building of prototypes, the flight testing and the certification of the AMCA will also happen within the next 8 years. The government inviting expressions of interest today. It will be shortlisting reputed Indian companies for this job, and ultimately the contract will be awarded sometime later this year for this prestigious project.
All right, many thanks to you, Aman, for bringing us all those inputs on that breaking news story. And with that, it's a wrap from my end. Thank you so much for watching Nation at 5. Up next is Plain Speak with Shivani Gupta.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. After Prime Minister Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Carney met on the sidelines of the G7 summit and vowed to reset India-Canada ties, Canada has finally made the big Khalistan admission. In a first, Canada's top intelligence agency officially acknowledged that Khalistani extremists are operating from within its borders. For a very long time, India has maintained that Canada has given a free run to these extremists under the garb of freedom of speech and expression, and this acknowledgement was long overdue. But what will change after this report? That's the big question. Canada continues to accuse India of meddling and overall has really shown no attempts to assuage Indian concerns on Khalistan agenda on its soil. Without action, what purpose will this report serve? And is the political reality in Canada finally capable of putting violent plans against India in their place on its soil? We'll take that and more to our guests joining us in just a bit. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service, first up, confirmed that pro-Khalistan elements operate in Canada.